This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feis and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast, where each and every week we do a deep dive into the good, the bad, and the awesome of all things video games. My name is George Feis.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash, and today we are playing WrestleQuest. We have hit that 1 year mark, and it is time. We also discuss extreme sports and who didn't get their own game back in the heyday.
Ooh, and as always, please make sure to subscribe to this podcast, and if you could, leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you choose to listen to your podcast. Follow along on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. Also, make sure to check out our sister shows, State of Affairs, over at Affairs Pod on all forms of social media, and Going Postal, which is Swoggle himself, breaking down his career and a whole lot more at Going Postal Pod. And make sure to check out Pod Exchange at Pod Exchange on X. And
he said X. Isn't that weird?
X. I know it is weird. I have to make a conscious effort to say it. And if you want
Twitter to me, damn it.
If you want exclusive content from all three shows, you can go and check out our Patreon at patreon.com/PodExchange. That is PodXchange. Exclusive shows, access to live recordings, show notes, Discord, and a whole lot more. Patreon.com/PodExchange. Johnny Clash coming off hot. Heels of Tony Hawk 3 and 4. Whew. I kind of enjoyed that. That was a good time. It was a good time playing Tony Hawk 1 through 4.
I enjoyed that a lot. As you know, I've been streaming a little bit here and there. I was thinking of doing a full Tony Hawk stream one night. Just running through the classics, probably just like 2 and 3. I don't think I would do 1 and 4, but it just gets you itchy to like keep playing these games. And we kind of decided that for the month of September, at the end of the episode, we're going to share what we're doing. It's going to be another series. So like we said, we're going to go to bi-weekly after next week's episode. So there will be only 3 episodes in September, and they're all going to be within the same theme. And I can't wait to tell you guys what it's going to be.
Very, very excited about that. There's not a lot of follow-up here because it was a series breakdown. Tony Hawk naturally getting a Play It Forever. It's so great. The first 4 games are fantastic. Very excited for when we dive into the next generation of the Tony Hawk series. Maybe a couple weeks, couple months from now, we'll be doing
little Underground.
Yeah, Underground 2, American Wasteland. I don't know if there's necessarily like another grouping of 4 that we would do all in succession like we just did with 1 through 4, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
We'll cross streams when we can.
Sure. Someone told me that was a bad idea, but are you ready to get into yet another wrestling RPG? Are you ready to get into the deep dive of WrestleQuest?
Let's do it. Looking to add the newest wrestling figures to your lineup? There's no better spot to pick up your next figure than the Wrestling Collector Shop.
Started by collectors for collectors around the globe, Wrestling Collector Shop has been serving the fans the latest and greatest in wrestling action figures since 2002. So the next time you're looking for the newest wrestling collectible to add to your collection, make sure to go to WrestlingCollectorShop.com and use code GameMarks to save yourself 10% on your order.
That's 10% off your order with code GameMarks at WrestlingCollectorShop.com.
All right, as always, the deep dive is brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop. Make sure to use code GameMarks to save yourself 10% over at WrestlingCollectorShop.com. Now, courtesy of our friends over at Wrestling Collector Shop, we give away a wrestling action figure. And all you have to do is follow the rules that we set to win said action figure. Sometimes it's a tagging of your friends on social media. Sometimes it's just following. Sometimes it's leaving us a review. John, someone got chosen to win the figure for the review contest. Let's hear it.
All right, winning the Damian Priest that we gave away last week. It's Curtis E. Bear 2. It says, Game Marks rock. I love old video games wrestling and video games about wrestling. My friends and I spent most of my sophomore year in the dorms playing WCW vs. NWO World Tour and WCW Revenge on the N64. This pod is the best of all worlds. I love it. See, that was a nice, beautiful review. That's all you need to leave. And this week, if you leave a review on Apple or Spotify, it doesn't have to be one. It doesn't have to be just Apple. Spotify has reviews now. You just hit that little 5-star button, screenshot it, send it to us. You will win this Top Picks.
Oh,
Hobbs. I mean, Dwayne. Was he Hobbs? I don't even know if he's Hobbs. Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Hobbs.
Top Picks. Look at that. That's a beautiful figure right there with that.
That is
championship belt.
New title debut Rock, right?
Yeah, when he debuted that old scratch logo WWE Championship. So I would keep this one for myself if I could. And to be honest, I think I do have it on my shelf. So
there you go.
I don't remember.
That's
where we're at.
Go.
But
all right.
Before we start, we're going to cover WrestleQuest here because we hit that 1 year anniversary. If you want the follow-up to this, if you want the lead up, we talked to James Deegan of MegaCat Studio, who created this game, on June 26th of 2023. We're going to link that in the description here so you know where to find it. But it was a great interview. Kind of showed us how the sausage was made, and he also has a really beautiful gaming setup. I would say
it's still one of the coolest backdrops of any video call I've ever been on.
And we let him know it.
It's every console all like daisy chained together to one television. It's awesome. Such a cool system, and it's very jarring to see every console like just lined up on a wall behind someone.
It was pretty sweet. Not gonna lie, pretty sweet.
Awesome. All right, here we go. WrestleQuest released August 22nd, 2023. Available on Windows, the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4 and 5, the Xbox One and Series X and S, and iOS and Android. Like John said, developed by MegaCat Studios, published by Skybound Games and other wrestling games in 2023. You've got AEW Fight Forever, WWE 2K23, Mark Out, the wrestling card game, and Casual Pro Wrestling.
What is Casual Pro Wrestling? Have we played that?
It is on the list. That is what it is.
Oh, I know what this one is. Okay.
It is on the list. I don't believe that it is... I think it's a later 2023 release, so I'm not sure if it's hit the 1 year mark yet. So,
yeah, that was an interesting one. But let's start here. This game was supposed to come out on, I believe, August 8th of 2023. It ended up being pushed to the 22nd, only the night before. And I remember this because I scheduled our post for the next morning saying it was released. The announcement happened at night. I went to sleep. I missed the announcement. And the new release went out that morning, and everyone's like, hey, they kind of said this game wasn't coming out today. But it did come out on the 22nd, which is the same as the day we are recording this right now, which is pretty crazy. Year to the date. They put out a nice tweet, said, finish the story. It's got Cody, it's got Sammy, it's got Seth, and yeah, they pushed it back, which we always appreciate. If the game is not done, give it that little nudge.
That's what I was just going to say.
The night before is a little crazy. When people are hyped for the next day, yeah, it's cutting it real close.
Cutting it close.
But I'm sure there was like some sort of scramble, and they were like, "Oh, hey, we can't put this out tomorrow."
It happens, but like you said, John, it is better to have it be the situation where you make a last minute patch and you delay the game by a little bit of time to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. We say it all the time. We've seen countless times over the years games be released with game-breaking bugs or exploits that then have to be patched. Spend a lot of money on some of these games, and to
Yeah,
have it be a launch bug fest is never a good experience.
And money to make the game. And when we talk to James, like the love and like the passion for wrestling in these games, obviously we said his whole setup behind him is a wall of every single console pretty much that ever existed. This guy loves the games. This company loves games and wrestling, and they put everything into this. So pushing it back, I'm sure, hurt them, but at the same time, they wanted a perfect product. But you might be asking, what is WrestleQuest? WrestleQuest is an RPG where it's in the professional wrestling world, but you're a little mini action figure. You got the little ball joints on the arms and everything. You kind of look like a little Toy Story character. You pretty much go through like an RPG. You travel through different maps and towns, and you do, I don't know, various quests. You could wrestle, which we're going to get to the gameplay in a little bit. I think it's one of the most creative ways an RPG has figured out how to make a wrestling match of all the games we've covered thus far. But also, I said it while we were playing. I'm not an RPG guy. I've said it till the cows come home. I'll use a wrestling phrase from JR.
I've never heard you say that before.
It didn't feel like I was playing an RPG. There was the leveling up. There were obviously the aspects of it. The wrestling match wasn't button mashing and doing a suplexes. It was turn-based. You didn't feel like it. It moved smoothly. The visuals were insane and just so pretty. You could do promos. You could do pinning. Like, it's just mini games, and the wrestlers.
I love hearing you talk nicely about a wrestling RPG for once. It's nice.
But the wrestlers you encounter are so like well drawn and illustrated that you just kind of like get really just engulfed in this game.
Yeah, and there's something for everybody in this game. If you're coming into it just to play an RPG and you're a fan of the classic, we'll say like Final Fantasy, like early Final Fantasy battle mechanics, you're going to love this game. If you are a fan of those games and you also have a love and appreciation for wrestling, you're going to have a great time as well. Just because there's so many little nuanced references. Like, obviously, it's WrestleQuest. The name of the game is wrestling, but there's so many little details hidden throughout the game as Easter eggs or characters that you'll encounter that share a likeness, or, you know, maybe if you're going for deep cuts, they've got a lot of appearances by not necessarily wrestlers, but wrestling personalities that you may know. And it's just, there's literally something for everyone. If you're not a fan of RPGs or wrestling, and you just like really nice looking pixel art games, go and look at the screenshots, play it. Maybe you'll find yourself enjoying the experience of playing this game. It's such a captivating experience from a world building traversal of an RPG map, which is not usually the experience. Like, you know, traveling from section to section is usually a very long, mundane experience. It, you know, and
they give you a run button to go throughout the map. You get a run button.
This game has its moments where it feels like it drags, and there's parts that, you know, are not my favorite experience of an RPG game, but it makes up for it in other ways. And I feel like there's a lot of games that are like that. There's elements of certain games or certain levels in certain games that you may not like. This just is like those.
Yeah. Just the fact that you have that run button. Like, how long in Pokemon do you have to wait to get
your bike?
The bike or the shoes in the later ones?
My God.
It's right there. You have a little map on the bottom and everything, and you're good to go. You're just good to go. But when you start a new game, you're first going to see Macho Man make his entrance. I said in our playthrough, it reminded me of a Fire Pro entrance, kind of mixed with the graphics of like a Retromania or something. It was so cool. The smoke on the screen. Macho Man comes in. He runs his little promo with the guy in the ring. And then it cuts to Muchacho Man, who is Randy Santos. Not Randy Savage, Randy Santos. And you're going to follow his journey. That's who you're going to level up mostly. You run into a guy named... Now, this one threw me for a second. His name is Mr. L.F. Font like text. But he's a stuffed elephant who owns the biggest wrestling organization. So Elephant. The organization is called Paw. Everything resembles within the game like old WWF style and all that. And basically he wants to control all of wrestling. He's doing illegal shit, but both protagonists, you're going to run into a man named Brink Logan, not Hulk Hogan. This is actually a Bret Hart nod. And you two both eventually intersect, become a tag team, and you try to save the world of professional wrestling and reality itself. Because, newsflash, Muchacho Man over here, since he's just a toy, doesn't know that wrestling is scripted. Now, if you ask me, I would not have put that part in the game, but
Whoa.
but we mentioned so many of these wrestlers that are in this game. I feel like there's a wave. I don't know how to say it. Like Pro Wrestling Tees, Retromania. Like there's a wave of wrestlers that all have their license just out. And you kind of get sick of seeing like the same ones over and over again within all this stuff. But I feel like this roster here, we say roster, but it's the people you encounter within the game. While it is some of those guys, there's also some that you just wouldn't expect to be in here.
Some that need a little bit more love, if you will.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Good job.
Well,
But
let's talk about them.
let's talk
What
about
do we
it.
got?
You got Al Snow, Andre the Giant, Booker T, British Bulldog, Captain Lou Albano, DDP, Jake the Snake Roberts, Jeff Jarrett, Junkyard Dog, Coco Beware, La Parka, Lady Apache, Luna Vachon, The Nasty Boys, Randy Savage, Road Warriors, Rocky Johnson, Sergeant Slaughter, and Soul Train Jones. And we know from talking to James Deegan, they wanted Bret Hart in here. It just didn't happen.
Just didn't happen. There are references, and
Plenty of them.
there's similarities to the Hart family in many ways in this game. So all of these wrestlers have their own. Everyone is portrayed in this pixel 8-bit or 32-bit style art style, which is great. There are some wrestlers that I don't think that we've ever seen portrayed in this style before, and that to me was really cool. Like,
Yeah.
we've seen Andre the Giant this way. We have seen the British Bulldog this way. Don't know if we've ever seen Captain Lou Albano this way. Don't know if we've ever seen Luna Vachon. Oh no, Luna Vachon we did see this way in the SNES and Sega games.
That's true. That's true.
But
I mean, Rocky
there-
Johnson,
Rocky Johnson,
Soul Train Jones.
it's Coco Beware.
It's pretty cool.
And I think that, like, to your point, to what you said before, you've got a good mix of the wrestlers that we see a lot of, and the ones that maybe need a little bit more love to just kind of, so they don't get lost in the shuffle of all the wrestlers. So it's nice to see a good spread here of all the wrestlers.
A nice
But let's-
smorgasbord.
Yeah, there you go. So let's talk about this here, John. How did they promote this game?
They promoted this with a nice commercial, including Jeff freaking Jarrett. He's working at Mega Cat Studio, and he smashes a guitar over a fella's head.
And he's got the My World shirt
His
on.
little My World shirt. There was a few, I think. There was a couple of Jeff Jarrett commercials here and there promoting this game, and they were all very well done. We've seen the indie games, indie devs, and all that. Mega Cat Studios is not an indie dev. They're at all. They've worked on Power Rangers games. I think Transformers. They are the real deal, and they really proved it here with this one. Even from the promotion, the artwork, and the game itself,
They didn't half-ass anything.
they whole-assed it all.
They whole-assed everything. Oh boy, I don't. That's a shirt for sure.
Let's take a quick break and come back, and we're going to talk about the artwork here. All right, we are back. Let's talk about this artwork. Let's start with the promotional artwork that we've grown to know and love, with just the upper half of Macho Man, his bandana and his sunglasses. You got Randy Santos. You got the action figures above him, Sergeant Slaughter. You got the Road Warriors. You got Andre the Giant, Coco Beware, Jake the Snake Roberts. Then in the background, you have a big statue of Macho Man and one of Double J, Jeff Jarrett himself.
Showing you all the different. At a quick glance, you wouldn't necessarily think this, but it shows you all of the different sections of the game that you'll be playing through. You've got the city, the ice level, the original starting point. You see it all in the background of this, which is nice because it paints the picture and sets you up to know what you're going to be playing without actually having to lay it out just, very plainly. And it all blends together nicely as a background. It doesn't feel like it's, what's the word? It doesn't feel forced.
Not at all. And I love the logo. It's got that old WrestleMania
Beautiful
type feel to it while not exactly ripping it off. The colors, but not the font. With a championship belt in the background. But the actual art style itself, the one thing that really stood out to me was how uncluttered everything is. I don't know if that's because we're now on a 16:9 aspect ratio and the screen's bigger, but the screen's not filled with just things moving left and right. The crowd sometimes is only on the bottom or kind of just tucked away, hidden where you don't have to see it at all times. Your different environments, there's nice scenery in the background, nice coloring. The ring itself is not too big or small where, it doesn't look realistic. It's got 2 ropes, for crying out loud. It's supposed to be a toy, as are the figures, so I get it. But everything just felt complete. Everything was nice to look at. Nothing was overbearing. And this would be a game I would love to have on like a Switch.
I think that this is a game that is... So, peek behind the curtain. My playthrough I did on my phone. I thought that this was a game that was suitable to play on a phone. It was easy, like a little travel RPG. It was a very enjoyable experience on the phone. But to then see this game loaded up on Steam, which is how we did the playthrough recording today, man, oh man, am I going to have to play through this game again on the computer, because you don't lose any detail going from one or the other, but it's way easier to miss stuff on the phone than when it is on your computer monitor displayed in all its glory. So very excited to dive back in and see what little graphic details that I missed, because John just mentioned it. We talked about it earlier. The game is stunning. They do a very, very good job with world building and the environments. Nothing feels forced or out of place. Everything is very intentional with a lot of thought behind it. Even the overlay effects from the opening tutorial of the fog from Macho Man's entrance to the explosion that happens at the end. Everything about it is just it's done with such care and attention to detail that it just makes for an incredible experience through and through.
Damn. I couldn't have said it better myself. Now, the things that pop up, sometimes there's a disconnect. I think it was Brasstown Wrestling. Looked like 3 different games meshed into one. I love the pin meter. It's like a little bar that goes off. You have to stop it in the right point. Normally, I'd hate that, but you could take your time. You got 10 seconds to do it. I love how you pick your moves. It's a nice little option menu come up for whatever face button you're pressing. And you could do the taunts. You could do a move. You could do... one was an item, and the other was... I can't think of what Y was.
What do you mean?
But, like up. It was strike. It was item. It was an action, such as pin or
leave.
Do your finisher.
I can't remember what it was.
Yeah. But then you have the hype meter on the bottom, where the more you do, the crowd gets more hyped for the match, and the more, I think, points you get to actually win. So each move you do means more. And then you level up even more with that. So at the end, you level up, you get more stats, you get more powerful, and then you just go and mosey on around this town. There's a nice little map, a little GTA map in the corner that shows you where you're going. You just go to the exclamation point. Like we said, you could run. or you could walk. Obviously, you're going to run every time. And it takes you to different environments. There's like a school. There's a face paint store where you could get face paint for your wrestler. There's like a jungle. There's so many options. I said it kind of reminded me of like the Yoshi Island map, how you're just jumping from thing to thing, but it's so much smoother. It's nice. It's not cluttered. I could say a lot about this, to be honest.
Like I said before, it's so nice and refreshing to hear. I think we found your RPG, John. I think this is it.
I didn't give my rating yet, George.
Took a couple. I'm confident. But before we do that, I have one more thing that I would like to let you know about this game. And that's, did you know? I got you this time.
What the fuck?
Did you know that there are several cameos in this game?
There is Chris Von Vliet, there's Conrad Thompson, various YouTubers, Adam, Eve, Invincible from the Invincible, I don't know what that means, Brian Alvarez, and Dave Meltzer.
So it's Adam, Eve, and Invincible from the show Invincible.
I don't know who either of those are.
Cool, that's why I was going to do this part, but...
You can't
but hey, John, I'm going to sit back in my chair, and why don't you take us through some ratings and reviews?
Gladly. All right. Your ratings and reviews here for the Xbox. This is for X and S. It's a 4 out of 5 stars out of 54 ratings. Supported in 6 languages, by the way. Pretty cool. For the PlayStation Store, you're getting a 3.72 out of 5. That's out of 137 ratings. Now, very positive on Steam overall with 391 ratings, but recently has received 14 mixed reviews. So I don't know if that's an update or what. IGN gives this a 6 out of 10, says WrestleQuest's love for wrestling catapults its creative and beautiful landscapes and strong characters into the main event, but isn't enough to elevate its bloated level design or competent but repetitive combat out of the mid-card. That's from Jarrett Green, who reviewed it for the PC. Now, I disagree, obviously, with the bloated level design because I loved it. I do agree how the combat could become very stale, take a long time to finish a match, and just... yeah, sometimes you just want to get going. Now, lastly here, this was available on iOS and Android through Netflix. So if you had a Netflix account, this was available through Netflix Gaming. It didn't last very long. It was pulled on December of 2023. That's how me and George played it. Unfortunately, mine was offloaded of my phone at the time, so I had to rebuy on Steam to play it today. So lost all progress. It's like WWE Mayhem all over again.
Ooh, that's a deep cut.
Yeah.
But hey, John, that's what everyone else had to say. But now I'm curious to hear what you have to say because it is now time to rate the game.
The game!
Johnny Clash, what are you gonna give WrestleQuest? Are you gonna give it a play it forever? Or a future endeavor?
All right, you were right. This is maybe the first RPG other than Pokemon Blue and Silver that I will give a play it forever. I had a lot of fun with this. I didn't expect to. I actually went in thinking I was going to future endeavor this because it's an RPG. I just liked the environment. I'm sitting here thinking like, this is a game I could pop on Twitch and interact with people and just play casually late at night or something. This, this might be my RPG here. And I wish I continued the playthrough a little sooner and I got further than I actually did before it left my phone. But I am happy to now continue it again on Steam.
That's great to hear. I was confident that at a certain point we were going to find that one. And as soon as we talked to James and got a little bit more information about WrestleQuest, I felt that this may have been the one just because I was like, it checks all the boxes. It's got the deep wrestling cuts if you look for them. It's got the great art style. The controls are very forgiving and easy to learn. I was like, this might be the one that John finally lands on that he likes, or at least isn't an immediate. I was like, this may be the one that John's on the fence about. He may not immediately just future endeavor it. He may have to think about it for a little bit.
Yeah, but George, what about you? Play it forever, future endeavor.
I am right there with you, man. I think that if you were listening to the episode, you could have gathered that I was going to say that from the beginning. This game checks all the boxes. It's a fun, easy to learn RPG in a great world. The environments are fantastic. There's tons of little wrestling, deep cuts. There is a mobile version. There's a version on the PC that is even prettier that I am now also probably going to go buy it because John bought the copy that we used for the recording today. That I am very excited to dive into. You told me to. I know. And I'm very excited to dive into and give it another playthrough. But this time on a much larger screen. Yeah. I'm also very excited to hear what everyone else has to think about this game, which you can do. You can let us know on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. Let us know if you played this game, and if you did, what you thought about it, what you would rate it, a play it forever, a future endeavor. We'd love to know what you think. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to start a conversation about the games that we play here. But with that, John, are you ready to get into this week's soft lock question?
I say, let's do it.
All right, as always, the Soft Lock is a segment where one of our Mega Marks on Patreon gives us a topic to debate, a question to answer. It's a question of the week with a fancy name. This week, the question comes from the nicest person in our Discord, Germ. Our good buddy Jeremy would like to know, which person or persons did not get an extreme sport game that could have? So we've got Tony Hawk, Matt Hoffman, Dave Mira, Kelly Slater.
Did Shaun White get a game?
I want to say that he got a game, but maybe it was on the Xbox or
he got
the
a
PlayStation.
Wii game.
Oh, it was a Wii game. I would have thought that it was like an Xbox or a
Sean
PlayStation
Palmer.
Game.
So my first instinct was to go to Andrew McDonald, but apparently he got a skateboarding game.
Is he in the ESPN X Games?
No, it's an MTV sports game.
Oh.
And it just looks like a blatant Tony Hawk ripoff.
I would have liked a... How would you make this, though? I would say I want a Rodney Mullen, like, street game where, like, you do his crazy, his insane, like, balancing on the board and, like, pogo sticking the board and stuff. But then I'm like, oh, if you do that, it's got to be like a DDR style game.
So this is interesting. The Andrew McDonald game came out in 2000. Rob Dyrdek's in it. He wasn't really relevant till later.
He's in Rob Dyrdek's in Skate too.
Yeah, but that's like 2008, 2009.
Yeah, that's later on. All right, so maybe we do this. What are some extreme sports that didn't get games, and then we could try to think of other people that like
extreme sports.
You know any like inline skaters?
No, not at all. Well, what I was gonna say was, I know it appears in Skate 2, but to have a full-on like Fantasy Factory game with the whole cast would have been sick.
Yeah, that would have been.
That was one of my favorite shows. When Big Black died, I was like absolutely devastated. I had all of Robin Big on DVD. Like I've never watched like a funnier duo on TV than those two.
Yeah, they were.
I've got to go back and watch those.
They were something else for sure.
Okay, Soups is saying, give me Viva La Bam minigame Bonanza. There is a Jackass game that I didn't know existed.
Okay.
Jackass the game. It just looks like you do stupid shit. It probably has a really bad rating.
I say the Jackass game I remember that was not great.
Viva La Bam actually had a DS game.
Did it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Unless this is fan made. Viva la Bam. Ever type and you're on the wrong key, like shift it over one, and you look up and you've.
That's bad time.
Yeah, this doesn't look real, to be honest. But then, wait, there's. Oh, for PSP, that's a UMD.
Oh,
like a video.
okay.
I think this is fan made, to be honest. But pretty cool.
I do like the idea of a fantasy factory style game where it's a little bit of both, where it's like there's skating stuff, but then you also have to like complete challenges that are like weird things in like within that environment.
I'm looking now. List of extreme sports. We got rock climbing. We got bungee jumping, base jumping. Base jumping would kind of be cool. But then we got whatever that was for Xbox.
We're not necessarily answering Germ's question.
Volcano boarding.
He says what people.
I'm picking Rob Dyrdek. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to say Rodney Mullen and give me some kind of like street, like
kind of like Cool Borders. Just give you like a one inline. You go down.
Oh yeah, it could work. But have you ever seen Mullen's like street performers that he would do? Like that's some of the most insane like body and board control and balance that I've ever seen. It's wild. It's like gymnastics on a skateboard. It's crazy.
Some sort of like skydiving game.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
I don't know what you do besides land on a target. You do like Power Rangers. You got Red Hot Chili Peppers playing, and you guys come down on your snowboards.
Maybe you gotta like go through rings. Like it's like Pilot Wings for the N64, but you gotta, instead of flying a plane through rings and landing, you gotta like skydive through the rings and then land in a certain spot.
The world is our oyster, George. We got flight simulate. We got simulators out the ass right now. So who knows? You might get skydive. Is it a thing? Hang on.
I'm sure there is some kind of skydiving game.
Skydiving simulator game. I'm getting like Ice Sky, whatever. Oh, there's a ton of like mobile ones. Steam has Skydive Simulator. I feel like anything these days
like
is going to
Oculus
exist.
Or whatever.
See, that would be cool because I'm scared as shit to skydive.
Yeah,
but I would love to do it.
Yeah, that's. Ooh.
So let's just do it on the Oculus.
There you go.
Like true gamers.
All right. Guys, if you have any suggestions or thoughts on what person or people or type of extreme
place
sport.
Or thing. Sometimes why?
Only on a leap year. If those games, any people, person or people or extreme sports that should have had games,
you're doing
let
great,
us know
sweetie.
On any form of social media at GameMarksPod. But John, changing things up once again. We did Tony Hawk. We played a wrestling game. Now we're going back to changing it up because September is going to be another themed month. I would like you to let the fine people listening know what the theme is for September.
I'm going to make so many people mad with my pronunciation.
Yeah, that's why I'm having you lead this in.
Because September is Super Mario month. We're going to tell you week by week what we're playing. So we're going to be bi-weekly. So there's 3 episodes. We're going to start. What do you want to start with next week? How about Mario Kart 64?
Oh, you want to start with 64?
Let's start with 64, but we'll cover the others.
Okay, so we're going to do a yeah, all right.
Primarily, we could talk about that one. It might be the most popular.
I do think it might be the most popular,
the others
but it is
as well.
Yes, yeah. It's not my first foray. I played the first one, but I didn't really know. I was way too young to understand the significance of what I was playing. But 64, yeah, hours and hours of my life gone to that.
Yep.
But yeah. So next week, starting off Mario month with Super Mario Kart 64, and I can't wait for all the people to yell at John for how he says it. But we're gonna get past
Mario.
As always, guys, you can check out all of our video content over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GameMarksPod. And you can get our playthrough videos, GMP24, which is a weekly wrestling show that we do. It's great. We have a lot of fun doing it, and we hope that you would join us for it. You can also go over to GameMarksPod.com/shop for our exclusive merchandise. Check out podexchange.shop. That's PODXCHANGE.shop for all of the exclusive merchandise for this show, Going Postal, and State of Affairs. Make sure to check out ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod for all of our shirts. Patreon.com/PodExchange. That is access to the live recordings, early release, ad-free, and exclusive shows from this show, Going Postal and State of Affairs. And you can follow along on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. And as always, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and we will see you in the next one. Johnny Clash, do that thing.
Game over. Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.